This is Comedy Slab edition 146. I hope you're not looking as shocked as Shane looks at me in the picture of Skype, which is coming down 170 miles from the frozen wastes of the Midlands in England, where Shane O'Connor resides. I reside in the southeast of England. What?
Everything below the waist is frozen. It's not just the waist that's frozen. It's right the way down.
As Ian Jury sang, what a waste. Although...
Well, thank you.
That's what he meant, I'm sure. Anyway, between us, I got told off last week, or during the week, by my girlfriend, who is, would you believe it or believe it not, a regular listener to the Comedy Slab. This is novelty for me to have a partner who actually listens to anything I say, whether pre-recorded or otherwise. Anyway, she said... She didn't actually say it in the accent I'm going to do it, but it's much more interesting if I do it with this accent.
My God.
Do you have to do every week? Do you have to do the explanation at the top of the show, like? She is, of course, yes, from Buckinghamshire. No, from the East End.
Anyway. I'm a natural born top of the show doer.
She is indeed. Thank you, Ringo or Bongo. So do we have to explain everything this week? Why do we do it, Shane? Explain.
Don't drag me into this because
you're in up to your waist.
Last time I upset Alison, she hit me on the head with her pipe. You know what? That comes really sharp. That does, doesn't it? She's it's one of them Sherlock Holmes ones that she smokes. No way, not a chance. I'm not getting involved in this. Embroiled in your domestics. Thank you.
Imbroglio. Well, anyway, I'm going to. Shall I do a concise explanation in a sentence, which would be a good exercise for me, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think if you the best of both worlds, and if you did a little tiddler, then surely she would have no objection to that.
I did a little tiddler before the recording, so so I don't need to have another one halfway through.
But I've told you, in the airing cupboard, he's not going to please everybody, is it? You know. Or
given that we're both bald, the lack of airing cupboard. So, in just a few words, if I can ever be brief. For new listeners, we put a different comedy each week. We take it in turns to set each other homework, alternate weeks. Put a different comedy on the notional marble slab of comedy. Slap or slab? I was confused with our baldness.
This is as long as every other week, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry. And sorry to Alison as well. I've let myself down. I've let you down. I've let my balloon down. Anyway, so we prod it about, see who salutes, see what we make of it, give it a score out of 5 at the end, tot it up to a score out of 10. It is purely our opinion of one episode on one day or one evening. Will that do?
It is that simple, and so are we.
Indeed. So,
as my brother always says, these are my trousers, and I'm sticking to them.
Well, I like the guy who... appeared before the judge because he kept stealing from flats from the 3rd floor. He'd never steal from the 4th floor or the 2nd floor or any other floor. And the judge said, well, why is it every time you burgle a block of flats, you always go to the 3rd floor to steal from? And he said, well, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. It could be made into a joke, couldn't it, in the hands of a professional?
It could. It's got potential, hasn't it, really? It's just a shame it's been strangled at birth, isn't it, really? But there you go.
As indeed I should have been. The thing is, what we've just demonstrated is why we review comedy rather than sell ourselves as comedians. It's much easier to, prod someone else's comedy, madam, on the slab, rather than to stick one's neck out. Right, now, we will review Athena's Cancel Culture, which is a BBC Radio 4 show. It's a Gusman production for BBC Radio 4. We'll do that in just a moment. We like having, if Alison, my girlfriend, will forgive me, stating what I think of or what she thinks of as the obvious, but it's not obvious if you're new to the show. Before we get into the meat of the scalpel action on the slab, we like a bit of comedy news, and also there's kind of personal comedy news from you, Shane. You just let slip, I think they say, during the preamble. I won't call it anything as dignified as a rehearsal. we don't do that kind of thing, do we, around here?
No,
as I think is obvious to our listeners. But You let slip that a show that we have previously put on the Slab, or Series 1 of that show, or an episode of Series 1, this time with Alan Partridge, which you roundly, well, I won't say condemned, but you didn't enjoy as much as, either of us had hoped, actually. But you've given it another try with Series 2, Episode 1. Anything to report back?
Yeah, I mean, I just saw it and I thought, oh, go on, I'll give it 10 minutes. I mean, I gave it the whole episode, actually. It just falls so short of what we come to expect from Steve Coogan and Alan Partridge. I don't know what the problem is. It's difficult to nail it down because you don't see the whole making of the thing. I mean, I have to say that they woefully underused Tim Key. He's reduced to a few obvious lines on the sidelines. And Felicity Montague is not very well used either. His able assistant, Lynn. And I don't know, it was more of the same, really. And I mean, it's interesting because you read the reviews and Partridge fans are split down the middle, aren't they? And I felt exactly the same. You've not caught up with Series 2 then at all? You're not?
I have to. I was briefly tempted in the week, but I think I ended up watching BBC Parliament's Select Committee's coverage.
Wow. I think you've made the better choice.
Probably more laughs in that, given
to be honest with you. Yeah.
We don't mean it, Mr. Coogan. Something, maybe too many cooks and all of that has gone slightly awry there. But of course, we slabbed in the Earth House, his podcast, which we thought was fabulous. So it's not that Steve Coogan's off form or there's any sort of. And
it's not the Gibbons brothers writing either, is it? I mean, that's the thing, is that the Gibbons brothers are involved in that and wrote the Ghost House, and it was like chalk and cheese, isn't it? It's just, I don't know. Yeah. So sad, really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I'll get back to my Select Committee coverage.
But we were looking through the comedy news, and I spotted. So I said to you that Annika Rice writing sitcom about her fake agent is probably the most exciting headline and intriguing headline that we'd ever seen. And you went, "Oh yeah, I know all about that."
Well, I'm not sure I put it quite that way, but the point was I had heard the story. I think she was being interviewed on Radio 2 or whatever. But no, it's not that I'm not pleased for her. It's just it didn't come as news to me. But hey, let's deliver it as news. And this has come via Richard Herring's podcast, which she appeared on. Are you intrigued that a comedy... Well, it wasn't a comedy creation originally. It was to give her cover to have time to look after her kids, wasn't it? So she'd refer to people to her agent and sort of pass off work. And I think that actually it's one of those scarcity things. If you make yourself scarce, as it were, as I've often asked you to, you actually increase your worth in the marketplace, to put it brutally.
Can I just to correct you, your exact words were, "Shut up, monkey boy. I know this story inside out. I don't want to hear from the likes of you greasy little oik." But
well, okay, word for word, that is what I said. But I didn't think you'd taken it in, frankly, or indeed taken offence to it.
The more I saw the more you explain this story though, how does it give her more time, like, to spend with her kids? If somebody makes an inquiry and she replies as, is it Clemmy Hart, her fake agent?
Yes.
If she, how does that give her any more time if she has to reply as somebody else as to if she replied as herself? I don't understand that. It doesn't kind of make sense, does it?
Well, I mean, she dispensed with Ms. Hart's services, the fictional agent, of course, after the agent's popularity began creating its own problems. So, no, you're right. I mean, you've seen through to the end of the story, in effect. It actually got more complicated. But
I think it's amazing. I mean, somebody like Annika, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, Annika, if you do ever get to listen to this episode of the podcast, I don't mean it to be mean, but somebody like Annika Rice, who doesn't have what you would say are well-known comedy chops. It's a great concept, isn't it? I mean, the more I think about it, and when we were talking recently outside, I don't think we were recording outside of the Slab, talking about the Henry Root letters. Oh yeah, I think that was the fag end of last week's show, or after we'd stopped the recording for the show. Yeah, which is something that I have absolutely found hysterical. I'm not sure whether I would now. I don't really know, but loved it at the time.
Yeah,
it's got that kind of flavour to it. This kind of imaginary. You can be playful with people. I mean, God, I wish I'd thought of it. I think it's a great idea.
Do you think, though, there's a ghostwriter who indeed may be a Clemmy Hart type figure who might not get the full credit?
Yeah, I still find it hard reconciling the lady that we've become known for jumping out of a helicopter in a jumpsuit and waggling her bottom in the camera. I'm doing a disservice. I don't know the woman. She could be highly amusing, couldn't she? You know, yeah. I don't know. I love things like that when people surprise you, when you think you know somebody because of the body of work that they've done. But of course, you know, nothing could be further from the truth, could it? It's like I used to love watching Lorraine until she had that big tax case against her, and it turned out that actually she's just an actress playing Lorraine.
Who happens to be called Lorraine, funnily enough. That's what did my nut in. Who knew?
She looks exactly
like came to court.
It's just incredible. It's just amazing. So you never know, do you, until the revenue come knocking, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that's probably the best punchline we can go out on that particular story. So let's move to slabbing Athena's cancel culture. As I say, BBC Radio 4 show. Were you familiar with Athena Kugblenu?
No.
Before? Right.
No.
Do you think
never
in the field of human conflict?
Yeah.
Or comedy reviewing? Okay, I've heard her pop up on your favourite kind of show, a sort of comedy panel show. I think I've heard her on the news quiz. I quite like her voice, and I sort of... this is sort of background listening, if I ever actually confess to doing that, but not full-on listening beginning to end, certainly not in a comedy slab review type way. But I've just clued into her sort of cheeky humour and quick wit and all of that, and I think, and I like the sound of her voice and so on, although I will have comments to make on that. My next closed question for you, Shane, is, did you think this was one of Lacey's choices to punish you?
No, I never think it's to punish me. I mean, I always think it's interesting because I've kind of got this sort of theory or feeling or whatever you want to call it, that the left is slowly strangling and killing comedy. Maybe not so slowly, actually, when you look at some of the things happening in America. So no, I'm always fascinated and intrigued because you take me into areas then that I would not normally think, oh, that'll be something I really want to listen to. But more of that later. But so I never kind of feel like, oh, he's leading me down a dark alley now, and this is something I'm going to have to. And that's the other thing is I always try not to sit there with my arms folded, metaphorically going, right, come on then, entertain me, come on, let's make me laugh. Go on, I bet you can, and don't try not to do that really. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I did ask you to, in the manner of George Michael, listen without prejudice last week. Although
you said the amount of times you said it and the way you said it made me more worried than actually sitting down.
Got your hackles up. Whatever hackles are, they were up, weren't they?
Well, I'm just thinking, what has he got me in for? If he's warning me like this, he must have heard it, and he must think it's something that's going to really, knock me. But yeah.
Well, I genuinely found it interesting, which is sort of creative treatment of something. I know it is, associated with the left. What to say? We've got 2 audio clips from the show, so if you haven't heard the show, that will sort of lay the ground. And in fact, it's actually 2 episodes, but they're only 15 minutes long. So there's 1 clip from the first of the 2 episodes and second from the second. And they, to date, there is only 1 series, so there are episodes 1 and 2 of Athena's Cancel Culture, which you'll find on BBC Sounds as we speak, and should be there for a little while yet. Is it a year? A year.
Over a year, it says, which suggests to me they haven't paid a lot for it, but, I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, very cynical.
That's a long time, isn't it, for it to be there, over a year?
Well, this is the new normal that the BBC is trying to put through, rather than the 30-day window. But you will still find plenty of exceptions where it does evaporate after 30 days. And for people listening outside the UK, it's a bit hit and miss, isn't it, whether you actually get this. But if Shane can track down other ways of finding this show, or of course you can always search for Athena stand-up or whatever on YouTube. I'm sure you'll find some material there, if not exactly the same stuff that we're putting on the slab. What were you chuckling about there before we move to the first clip?
For some reason, I thought you were going to say the norm is that they're on for 30 days. And of course, if you listen outside the UK, that's a month. I don't know why I thought you were going to say that. But
thank you for, on my behalf, belittling all of our non-UK listeners. Great to have 219 countries, which are suddenly now my enemy. Thank you very much.
I just think, because they were metric and not imperial, maybe. I don't know.
We don't mention imperialism to do with Britain. There's a lot of countries we've actually not got a good track record with.
Well, there's a lot of countries who have not got a good track record with other countries as well, but they seem to, like Germany seems to have got away scot-free for the Second and First World Wars, doesn't it? It's amazing. I'm
not sure about scot-free, but there was that famous quote. Was it Vodafone? Is that a German company? Had an aggressive takeover by a Spanish firm. Was it Telefonica or something? And the quote from the German company was, "We are not used to aggressive takeovers in Germany." And I thought, well, welcome to the club. Thank you very much. Yes, let bygones be bygones. Right. So moving swiftly on. Do you know what? My first big disappointment with the show Cancel Culture is why the heck is cancel culture not explained until episode 2? That strikes me as a big production failing, I have to say.
Oh, okay. I never noticed that.
Rather than say at the top of the show, episode 1, series 1, and you hope for more series, what is cancel culture? It's like me explaining what is the comedy slab, But Alison, of course, my girlfriend, will say, well, there's no need for anyone to explain cancel culture. I understand it, so don't waste your time. If there's no need, why explain it at all in episode 2? It just strikes me as bizarre. So I feel, what do you understand by cancel culture? That's what I'll ask before I play the clip.
Are you asking me? Or is that,
sorry, that wasn't rhetorical. That was me, Adrian, saying to you, Shane, aha.
Can we come back to that? Because
okay. Is that in your headline?
Inextricably, it's threaded through what
you and your braiding.
Show and,
you and your fancy embroidery. Right, okay. Well, in which case, let's hope we've got enough listeners. They're very intelligent and presumably worldly wise. They presumably will know what cancel culture is and won't need any explanation. So I will merely give a brief explanation into the treatment here in this 1-minute audio clip, or give or take. And one of the things that drew me to the show was it's attempting a creative approach to what could otherwise be a very sort of greyish sort of technical area of cancel culture. So what Athena's done, and she is the writer of this show, as well as the performer, she has created a show within a show, a sort of her version of The Price is Right, but she says The Price is Right because she's put a question mark on the end because she doesn't want to be cancelled for nicking infringement of copyright of a famous, well-loved ITV show called The Price is Right. So this is an example of cancel culture from Athena's show of that name.
We've time for one more spin of the wheel.
Racism!
It's landed on racism! Finally! A tree that has borne so much cancellation fruit as if it was grown in the Garden of Enoch. We are spoiled for choice, so let's see who's playing our race round of The Price is Right.
Boris Johnson, David Starkey, Jeremy Corbyn, come on down!
Oh no, Johnson, Starkey and Corbyn are absent from our audience as well. But we can still look at how race almost got them erased. Boris Johnson's history of going on the record with some alarming views is better documented than his paternity. He compared Muslim women wearing conservative dress to looking like letterboxes, and has written unsavoury things about black people. He suggested Malaysian women only go to university to find men to marry. He said the problem with Africa is that we're not in charge anymore, and that Islamophobia is a natural reaction to the Quran. Then he said,
Athena, it's Gus, the producer here. Just say Boris is firm when it comes to racism and move it forward. We'll need Radio 4 to commission another episode to fit it all in.
Yeah. Where to start?
Start with the headline.
Yeah, I'm really, really, really proud of my headline.
It better be good.
Oh, well, I won't dwell on it then. But my headline was Athena just got on Minerva.
Oh, that's two gods in one, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they were
for one
linked,
offer.
weren't they, Athena and Minerva? So,
So
quite good,
you
really.
clearly had a
There you
better classical education than me at a so-called comprehensive school that turned out not to be that comprehensive.
No, I got Wikipedia, but I just Googled it. And I have to say, I love the theme music for the first episode. I can't remember whether it was on the second episode or not. But
Well, shut up.
it was like a kind of guitar sort of thing going on. I don't know.
Oh, it's a rocky thing, isn't there? Yeah, fairly.
But,
yeah.
This has got to be some of the worst radio comedy I've heard in a long time. I don't really know where to start. I mean, it's quite interesting. She says, "Oh, they're not in our audience." Well, nobody's in your audience. There wasn't an audience, and I think probably the reason there wasn't an audience is because it would then. I mean, just that clip there is there isn't a lot of. It's like a lecture, isn't it, rather than a comedy.
There is definitely a lecture element, but I thought before we. Well, sorry. Did you want to finish your?
No,
thought,
carry
or
on. No.
I thought I immediately thought of another comedian, a stand-up comedian from some years ago, who was pretty close to being a preacher, which is also quite close to being a lecturer. Can you think of anyone that you think of, or might think of, or you might think I might think of in that category?
No, go on. I'm intrigued. How far back are you going?
I'm going. He's no longer with us. Died 1993, which might be a bit of a clue. I think it was 93, 92.
No, go on.
It's Bill Hicks. I often refer to him as a shop comic. I think it's great quotable lines of his. Wrote his own material. Died at 32, but he'd already literally spent half a life as a stand-up. He was incredibly young, in his teens, when he started stand-up. But someone once said to him, I think it might even have been his mum, popped up in a documentary after his death, saying, she said to him once, "You're a bit like a preacher." And he said, "No, Mum, I'm not like a preacher. I am a preacher."
Yeah.
And he was a preacher from the left, which, might be part of your problem. I don't know.
With Bill, I said to you, didn't I? I had a load of Bill Hicks stuff, and I ended up getting rid of it. I just thought, this isn't for me at all. I just couldn't find the funny side of it. It was a bit. It's not so much comedy. It's more you kind of. It's like oh, excuse me, I just hit my head on the wall. You kind of feel good where you go, I hate Ronald Reagan. Oh, I hate Ronald Reagan as well. Yeah, like kind of that sort of thing is. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of. Rather than is there a joke coming about this at all? And I felt really offended by a lot of these two episodes. I thought they made some wild generalizations and assumptions, and the jokes I just thought were. I think it's quite interesting because I think if you probably asked the people involved in this and said when was the worst time in comedy. They go, the 1970s were just dreadful. And I thought the jokes took us right back to the 1970s. They were that kind of standard, It's like what I would call dad jokes. I mean, I think she said at one point, she said, I was talking about Greek and about a name, and she said, I'm not Greek. She said, the only Greek in me is the tarama salata I had at lunchtime. And I thought, really? Is that what we're doing now? There were gags, or they were talking about where curry really comes from, and misappropriation, and so if a guy who's of Asian descent and was born in India comes to the UK and makes a curry, then that's not really where he comes from. You just kind of think, you are so effed up here. You don't. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. That's the only way I can describe it, Adrian. It's a mess. I'm intrigued how you thought of it.
Well, I will, of course, reveal. And it's a complicated picture. And I think we will find some common ground, but we'll also find plenty to disagree over. I actually think almost the opposite when it comes to the mess thing, because I actually think it's too neat in the sense that too much is given. I'm talking philosophically, if I can use such a grand term, but I think there is a philosophy, if only I could say it, going on here, which is, it's like, there's no argument about this. We all know what cancel culture is. Maybe that's why it's not even explained at the top of the show, because it's assumed. You and I know what it is. We're either signed up to it or we're not. That's very neat. That's, if I may use the term, black or white. And, you're either in the camp or you're out of it. So in that sense, it's quite tribal. So I'm interested to know in what sense you mean a mess, because I think in its own terms, I'm not talking about whether you or I agree with it. It's just, and this is wider than Athena herself. It's, we all know what cancel culture is. You, as I say, you're either in the tent or you're out of it. It's very clear where the lines are. You are either cancelled or you're not.
See, I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are kind of for cancel culture. Oh yes, cancel culture is great until they are the person getting cancelled, and then that's one of the things about the left, isn't it? Is their appetite to eat one another is quite amusing, and then when it's there to
not in that particular tent. Sorry, carry on.
But when it's their turn in the barrel, they're not so keen, are they? Do you know what I mean? This is the thing that I find funny. I mean, in terms of a mess. I mean, I think, you will listen to episode 1. I don't think I'm doing any spoiler alerts here, but I don't really know what I would spoil if I did. But episode 1, there's this kind of lecture given with an air of superiority. And then in episode 2, we find out that actually, and even the Guardian review kind of said, I can't really believe that in episode 2, she's actually saying that she'd been cancelled herself because she wrote, whatever phobic stuff about various people and offensive and abusive things at a job that she once had. And the whole it's just a mess. It's just the whole thing is a complete mess. And I'm amazed it ever got commissioned. And having heard it, I'm amazed it ever got to air.
Right. Okay. Well, what drew me to it was this creative treatment, as I say, of something that could otherwise be considered as not fair for comedy at all. I like anyone's bravery, at least, and that includes, we've just been talking about Annika Rice, having a go. You and I can love it or hate it or somewhere in between.
If you're gonna go and have a go in a social club. Don't have a go on Radio 4. Do you know what I mean? That's a hell of a having a go, isn't it? Do you know? It's like kind of.
It's a big platform, yeah, but at the same time, she is tucked away. If you're talking linear radio terms, on Wednesday night, which we've mentioned numerous times, and we've liked a lot of stuff that goes out on a Wednesday night. It's the more experimental slots, which is why it's 2 lots of 15 minutes. I don't mean that we're slabbing 2 episodes, but that you get 2 different series running on Wednesday nights, 11 to 11:15 and 11:15 to 11:30.
Right.
Yeah, which of course all appears on BBC Sound, and I sound very old school for even referencing times of day and days and linear radio. But hey, that's fine. It's there for you to find. Where to go? I think she is trying to bring some comedy treatment to it. I suppose we should probably try and dig in a bit to episode 1 before we then move to episode 2, which, as I say, we've got a separate clip from for that. But it's the assumptions going on. For instance, in that clip we were just talking about, Boris Johnson. Incidentally, she might have tried to get it in, but heaven help anyone who mentions the late Duke of Edinburgh in terms of racist remarks. But hey, you wouldn't get that past the BBC censors anytime soon. But she refers to Jeremy Corbyn a little bit later than where I cut off the clip as everyone's favourite socialist. Now, I don't know how much she's sort of thought about that, or whether she, in her mind, she's just preaching to the converted, as it were, in as much as I do accept it is a type of lecture. And she may, for me, that's not not of itself a negative thing to say it is a lecture style. It's polemical. It's her opinions. That's fine. I mean, the BBC is, I think, generally too shy of letting people have a platform for their own opinions and to speak out, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable.
You're joking. You are joking, aren't you? I mean, you are.
No, I'm
you
not.
Aren't really serious about that. I mean,
who are you thinking of then when you're?
Well, Gary Lineker for a start. I mean, he's the first one that's, although he might not be, since the revenue are after him for 4.9 million back taxes, he might not be so forthright in his opinions. But, I mean, there is no control, is there? I mean, in terms of the talent, they let them do pretty, unless they're minions and they're low lives, in which case they'll come on them like a ton of bricks, I didn't laugh once. I mean, I sat through the whole thing. I'm guessing, I didn't look at myself while I did it, but I'm guessing stony faced and in somewhat of I was going to say in shock, but I mean I'm not surprised really. The place that it's coming from, it just upsets me a bit because I actually looked at some of her on YouTube, some of her stand-up stuff, and found it equally offensive, really. And I think, until we start calling this kind of stuff out and saying, actually, no, that is offensive. It's like, this isn't a one-way street here. She was, I don't know what the context was, but kind of halfway through a clip, and it said about if 20,000 black men disappeared, the effect that it would have on football. She'd be going, oh, right, well, the manager's there, the referee's there. And I think the suggestion was that she was trying to say that, that the majority of footballers are black. When in actual fact, if you look at the statistics, it's 25% of footballers are black or ethnic minority.
Are we talking English footballers or at a world level, or
we're talking. I think it's English professional footballers,
right?
So,
but it's higher than in the population at large.
But
I don't remember that reference.
It's double. It's double, isn't it? I mean, it's about 15%, isn't it? I think in the population. But this is 25%. No, this was in a stand-up routine.
Oh right, sorry, yeah.
And saying things like, "Oh, I'm not going to say anything bad about Donald Trump because he makes white people angry." None of this was getting a laugh, by the way, with their audience.
Well, the audience,
I don't know why you'd want to ban Trump because Katie What's-Her-Face is running around. She couldn't even remember the name of the woman she was targeting. You just kind of think there must be some professionals out there who would jump at the chance to do a series on Radio 4. And I don't know, it's back to commissioning, isn't it? I don't blame her. I just blame commissioners. You kind of think, what were you thinking?
Okay, we'll leave that question dangling as we hear our second and final clip. And so this is from the second in the series of Athena's cancel culture. This is an attempt through using the style of a public information film, or the audio therefrom, to explain cancel culture. And again, we're on the topic of racism.
Next example. What do we have here? A person getting onto a bus wearing an England football shirt outside of a major international tournament. That makes him look, shall we say, a little bit racist. Ha! He's about to take the seat of that person wearing a hijab. What's he about to say?
Oi, oi! Why don't you go back to where you...
Stop! Does anyone on the bus have their phone unlocked and pointed in the direction of a potential cancel? If a racism happens on public transport and no one is there to film it, does it make a sound? Let's see what happens next.
Oi, oi! I mean, come back to your seat. You forgot your bag glove. Here you go.
Thank you, sir.
Phew. The bystanders got a lucky escape. He wasn't racist. He was considerate.
Didn't really work again for me because they said something different the second time round. It was like, oh, no, you didn't. He went, oi, oi, said something a while,
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah.
It kind of thought, oh, no, that didn't work either. I mean, again, it's the assumption that, somebody who is white and wears a football shirt is going to look a little bit racist. Is a terrible stereotype to make.
Yeah, but
some would say racial profiling.
I can save you some correspondence, which is people will say, but that is the very point, isn't it? that we shouldn't make those presumptions about people wearing an England shirt.
I don't think that is the very point, is it? It's we were surprised that he wasn't. I mean, this is the whole point, isn't it? This is the whole argument about whether comedy is or can be racist, because I mean, this is what Rowan Atkinson talked about whether it's about intent more than about content. And I think that's quite an interesting thing. And now we're turning it around and looking at it from the other perspective. The arguments that would never stand up if it was the other way around, you're quite happy to put forward. The interesting thing I thought about this sketch, though, the biggest thing was it was too long, 5 minutes and 6 seconds.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
It's a third of the show, and she doesn't appear in it at all.
Yeah, it had made its point easily by 2 minutes in, if not 1 minute. Okay, well, I'll just throw in that she consistently mispronounced anti-Semitic as anti-Semitic. I'm surprised the producer didn't pick her up on that. But although I had to remind myself, an emetic is, as you may well know, something to make you throw up. So maybe it is the right term. Maybe that's what you want to call the show, anti-Semitic or emetic for you.
I thought she kept saying cancer culture as well. It was quite a difficult listen, wasn't it? I think
that might be her follow-up show, which I'm sure will be a load of laughs.
There'll be a laugh a minute, won't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I did find it quite a difficult listen. We listen on headphones, don't? Well, I listen on headphones because I sit and do notes as well. Yeah. And so that helps with the audio. But I know when I've watched TV programmes on the telly in the other room before, and I kind of think, I can't make out what they're saying. I've got to go. And I found that
she did gabble. She did go too fast. Again, I think she should have been told to go a bit slower.
Ready, aim, fire. I can't help it, sir. I'm a bit of a gabbler, as they said in Blackadder with the firing squad. It was just a diction thing for me. It was like I didn't.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about addiction. I thought, be careful, we'll be done for libel. I know of no addiction problems. Anyway, without further ado, I've got a feeling you're going to give a woefully low score out of 5. You've previously given a 0, so unless you're going into negative territory, it can't be lower than anything you've ever given before. But that's not saying much, is it? Dare I ask what your score out of 5 is?
Yeah, I mean, the caveat is that, this is my opinion. This is how I felt. I did genuinely, I was genuinely shocked and disappointed by it. And I didn't find it funny. I bear no malice to her. If she can make a career, then, great. That's, in the same way that presumably people felt the same about Bernard Manning. If he can make a career out of it, then so be it. I don't know. But
I'm sure she'll love the comparison.
But for me, I have to say, it just didn't work for me. I didn't enjoy it. I wouldn't go anywhere near it if we hadn't been slabbing it, and I won't be going anywhere near it again. And I fear that it's probably put me off her future work as well. So if she's got any other stuff, I kind of think, it'll be a tough one to walk towards. But sorry, you want to know a number, don't you?
I do. Get on with it.
It's 0 for me.
So joint worst. Okay.
Just awful. Honestly, I'm so saddened that, that there are people I've seen on YouTube that I kind of think, why are they not getting breaks? But maybe we know the answer to that. I don't know.
Well, you might get a leg break after this. Okay. Get in touch with your bodyguard, and you may well get cancelled, but not by me, because we will have another show next week. But for me, I'm going to give it 3, which, of course, given that you've given it a 0, is its total, both out of my 5 and out of the 10 total. I like the fact she tackled it at all. I like the fact of the creative treatment. I tend to be a little more generous with my scores than Shane. And I felt some work had gone in with it. Clearly, I wasn't as repelled by it as you. And I wouldn't want Radio 4 or indeed any outlet to be frightened of tackling tricky subjects. I know you're not saying that, Shane. I'm not accusing you of that. But anyway, 3 out of 5 from me, and indeed 3 out of 10 from us as a collective. Dare I, with a huge intake of breath, ask you what next week's homework is, and is it retaliation?
Well, I don't. Do you know, I shouldn't have done it, and I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to put no spoilers or anything like that. But I thought perhaps foolishly,
oh dear,
knowing that I was going to suggest this, thought I wonder what other people are saying about this, which was quite interesting, and we can share it with you next week anyway. But it is a new comedy, brand new in actual fact, and it comes from great pedigree. It's a TV comedy, and it comes from great pedigree. If I mention the name Gleeson to you,
Liam or Sally? Oh no, it's Neeson, isn't it?
No, I was going to say I don't know them. I don't know if do you know Brendan Gleeson? The actor Brendan Gleeson? Have you seen In Bruges? Have you seen that at all? It's a great film.
I've been to Bruges, but no, I haven't seen a show of that name.
And I think he most recently starred in a thriller, a 10-part thriller in America called Mr. Mercedes. Anyway, that's the dad, Brendan Gleeson, and this comes from his two lads, Donald, and I can't remember what his brother's called. His name escapes me at the moment, but anyway, the Gleeson brothers, they're known as collectively. And
could it be Donald, or is it definitely as in the Irish name?
Donald. I say. I mean, some people say Donald, but I say Donald.
Scone. Let's call it.
Yeah, I think it's the vowel in it really. But yeah, Donald or Donald, either will do. I think he says Donald actually because that's the Irish accent. But sorry, Brian is the other one. Brian and Donald are the two Gleeson brothers, and they have created a thing called Frank of Ireland. I thought, well, that's nice because they've got the Irish heritage.
This is spooky. Would you believe? Just this week, I sat down. Thought, I just feel like watching a comedy. I'd given up on select committees for laughs. Yeah. And I thought, well, where will I find probably a nice, edgy, new comedy? Channel4.com. And guess what? Frank of Ireland. It would be hilarious if it's the episode I watched randomly last week.
Did you? You watched an episode, did you?
I have seen an episode, shockingly, already.
Oh, man, you're up on me then. Well, I was just going to go into the basement. I was going to go, for episode 1, because
that's probably the one I went for, as you would, naturally.
We'll all know what the hell we're watching then in some way, shape or form. We'll all be equally bewildered to the same extent, maybe. I don't know.
Fascinating. Okay, bro.
Yeah, so that's it. So Frank of Ireland, Series 1, obviously, because that's all there is of it so far, and Episode 1. I mean, essentially, I think he's a kind of it's like a failure to launch kind of comedy, isn't it? He's sort of still living with his parents kind of thing, so... I mean, I think that's and the hilarity ensues, I think is where we go.
With hilarious consequences, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Frank of Ireland, Series 1, Episode 1, and you were about to confirm it's Channel 4, isn't it? That's where we're steering people to. Yeah. And it's on your favourite All 4 app as well. All for One and One for All. Fantastic. On anti-social media, we are at Comedy Slab. Naturally enough, on Twitter, do follow us there, and it's also the handle at Comedy Slab for our Facebook page. And his nibs, Mr. O'Connor, posts there, and you can post too. We've had some lovely flattery. Not that we want to twist your arm up your back, but if we can get some flattery out of you without torture, then that would be fantastic. If you can recommend us to friends and family, either in person or through a Zoom screen or other video conferencing and video call services are available, that would be fabulous. Thank you in advance for that. And lastly, nice, generous star rating on Apple podcasts or iTunes, however you find them and manifest them, and any comments as well on the show. Be good to hear from you, and suggestions for shows that we might put on that notional slab of comedy. Thank you in advance.
That's it from us. Thank you very much for your company. For me, I'm just going to go into the other room now and make sure I don't press the middle leaf on that piece of furniture, because I think that's a pivot table.
And I'm thinking you might have to pivot your career after your kind comments. Or I don't know. Is it all perhaps irony and tongue-in-cheek? or will we both get cancelled? We'll have to see. We'd actually, I mean, you don't want to tempt fate, but given our relatively low profile, to create a Twitter storm, I think would be something of a miracle. And every cloud, we'd try and trade out of it, wouldn't we, to our advantage?
Yeah, good luck cancelling me. I look after my son full time, so yeah, I don't know. I'll go and tell him if you like.
Hang on, I'll see if I can find a headline. White bloke cares for child shock. Yeah, I'll see what I can do with that.
Okay.
Give me a week.